Hi, Pastor Sam here. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with you looking at our Old Testament Hebrew scriptures, not in any exhaustive sort of way, but simply picking out some of the Bible stories I remember as a child and reflecting on them with you. Today we move to some of the literature. In fact, we already have to a degree, but some of the literature we find in the Bible, which is not meant so much to be historical narrative or presented in that way, but rather as writings to provoke thought. And specifically, I want to look at the book of Ecclesiastes today. How much can you lift? Now, I'm not talking about eating as many M&Ms as possible to see how much weight you can gain and then try to stand up from the couch. That is unto itself a bit of a challenge, but I mean just dead weight. How much can you lift? Like a couch, a barbell, a car, a house? There was, some years ago, back in the 1950s, a weightlifter who said that he could lift, about 3 tons. And that's a lot of weight. It was never proven. But wow, he was a very strong fellow, and who knows, maybe it's the case. 3 tons is a lot. We might think about a workhorse, a literal horse that does work. James Watt, the engineer, Scottish engineer, gave us the term horsepower on the basis of calculating that a horse could move 33,000 pounds, lifting that a foot or so for at least a minute or more, or at least it would take a minute to get it a foot up in the air. That's where the term horsepower comes from. Of course, we have cars that have lots of horsepower, but there are limits. Limits to everything. Limits to how much a person can lift. Limits to how much a horse can pull. Limits to life. The book of Ecclesiastes is all about limits. The fact of the matter is that we live and we die, as it points out, and between life and death we go through a whole series of seasons, and those seasons are pretty much unavoidable. We may recall what is told to us by this writer in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It's pretty straightforward. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. We've already talked about the bookends. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. This is the season of the year for planting, and harvest time comes in a few months. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. We had a lot of breaking down recently, but now we're building up a new elevator, and it's nice to see the change. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together again. I remember my dad farming in Pennsylvania, or rather at least having a garden, and trying to pull all the rocks out. It was a lot of work just to get to the dirt. And now here in Iowa, I'm collecting rocks for my rock garden, and I can't find enough. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Trust me, I know that. No embracing right now. Might give somebody a virus. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. And notice the writer is not advocating for hate and love equally, or for war and peace equally. He's simply saying that in the bounds around life as sinners, we will go through these seasons. The final chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes deals with old age, infirmity, and death as another boundary. But the writer of Ecclesiastes, a wisdom writer, is not joyless. He says, in the midst of these boundaries, enjoy life. Take pleasure from your work. Make sure you have dinner parties. Spend time with your beloved, your spouse. Life really is good. And the fact of the matter is that because there are boundaries, that makes life all that much better. Knowing that it will disappear from us means that we should enjoy the times with that much more gusto. And when we go through hard times, knowing the times will change, we should look forward to those new times with hope and anticipation. The boundaries of life, they're really not that bad altogether. As long as you remember to live in this day and to celebrate the blessings of this day, to be grateful, to reach out to loved ones, to enjoy your food, to have a good laugh, knowing that there will be times of sadness, times of grief, times of hardship. The seasons change. So do you, and so do I. And these are all within the providence and the care of God. Be wise. Enjoy the season. Amen.